exciting episode of the Scouser and the Scot.
So today we've got two Scousers. Well, sorry, two Scots, one Scouser. It's crazy. First of all, let me introduce you to Neil Hunter from the Takeaway Thieves. How you doing, Neil? You keeping well?
Very, very good, Ian. Not as good as you. You probably have you started drinking already? Two
Always,
Scouser.
mate. I don't stop. What do you mean? You're telling me that a Scot doesn't drink?
He actually doesn't. He actually.
Such a disappointment to my family, I can tell you that. I can reassure you on that one.
That's why to move. That's why to move from Scotland down to Blackpool to get away from them because it doesn't.
It makes sense. Totally understandable. But Blackpool's just full of people who want to have parties and drink, so it must be difficult down there.
Well, we live just further down the coast in a little fishing village called Fleetwood, where the Fisherman's Friend comes from, and Alfie Bow.
Ah, yeah.
He comes. You see him walking down the prom every now and then.
That's cool, man. That's cool. So we've got 10 questions for you today, Neil. If you don't mind, we're just going to start off and delve a little bit into your background, find out a little bit of what you've done and what knowledge you can share for everyone who's watching. So let's start with the first one. Can you give us a bit of background information about, like, how you got into the music scene? Like, what was the first introduction to music that piqued your interest?
Probably up till the age of 10, it would be my dad. He had he played guitar, and then I always remember he got a 12-string guitar, acoustic guitar, which now I have, and just from listening to he was listening to the Beatles, Buddy Holly, the Shadows primarily, and then when I got to high school, I got turned on to, like, say, AC/DC, Iron Maiden. And one day I went to my friend's house, and he shared his bedroom with his brother. And on the wall were these, I'd never seen anything like it in my life. It was Kiss posters, all the blood and all the glitter and glamour. I thought, what the hell is this? And he got Kiss Alive out from his brother's collection, and he put it on, and it just blew my mind. And so it was Kiss, AC/DC, and Iron Maiden primarily. Then my other friend, so I was about 11 here. My other friend, he had another older brother who was a drummer, and they were in, like, if you will, they were like 15, 16, and they played in the drama studio of the school at one lunchtime. And I always remember they were called Laurentium, because I think I might be wrong with that name, but the idea was, I think Laurentium is the heaviest metal in the world or something. And these group of 15-year-old kids to an 11-year-old were like, oh my, this is a real band, and they played like AC/DC, Black Sabbath. And I thought, wow, that's exactly what I want to do. And from that, I just picked up my dad's guitar, where the string action was about this high off the fretboard. I go, I'm not getting this. It's not sounding like AC/DC when I'm playing it. And then another friend I played guitar with, he said, well, look at these are bar chords. So, wow, that's, so that was a little turning point. And then we got in a little bit of trouble with, one of my friends died at 11. He got decapitated in the fairground on the Noah's Ark.
Wow.
And then I got in we were getting a little bit of trouble with the police, like kids do, but back then we were a little bit scared of the police, not like nowadays.
Yeah.
And I didn't want the turmoil of my mum and dad to be upset. My dad was diabetic, and he had just had a big health scare with that. And I didn't want to cause them any unnecessary, strain or anything. So I decided to stay in and not go out with my friends from the age of 13. And I just listened to records and learned, play the guitar. And just another big influence of mine, that was like when Bon Jovi came out. There was, Desmond Child was a huge, a huge influence on my life. And he had, at that time, there was such a mystique with him as to what he even looked like. And I just learned about, the songs and learned to play the guitar. And I left school, got a little job, and I don't think I went out till I was about maybe 17 or 18. So I just immersed myself in the music, and learning
That's
and
cool.
listening to all that. I actually have on my ring, and it does sound cliched, and I hear people say it, but engraved on my ring it says "Dead, Jail, and Rock and Roll." Because another friend of mine died when he was 13 of glue sniffing. He fell in a canal, and so I've always had this, any of us could go at any moment, and we've got to do exactly what we want to do when we want to do it, in a kind of selfish way. And the choice, they were the choices I thought I had. I thought, another friend of mine, he'd gone to Borstal when that was such a thing, and I had two friends dying at such an early age. I thought, my God, I've got to stay in, not only to, so my mum and dad don't keep getting worried and upset, but, so that I don't die or go to jail. I'd rather, play the guitar, So that was the turning point for me. And funnily enough, we did a gig a couple of years ago now. We got approached by a primary school in just outside Bolton, and they were it was around Christmas time, and they said we would like you to come and maybe put on an acoustic show. And Adam, the bass player, said, "Oh, God, Neil, what do you think of that? You're not going to like that, because I always like to say, let's do this gig, let's do that gig, let's just do gigs that we're going to enjoy." And he said, "What do you think of this idea?" And I said, "Well, when I just went straight back to being that 11-year-old and being turned on to this real band who were like only 15-year-old kids playing." And so we went to do that, to hopefully, switch some of these, primary school kids on to music, and they all got dressed up. There was some dressed as Slash, Axl Rose, and they had there was only supposed to be one school there, one class. In the end, the whole school came into this gym, and watched us just do an acoustic set, and they were jumping up and down and screaming. So that was really nice, just because I know the impact that had on me at 11.
Yeah.
I'd like to maybe even if one or two of those kids, and the letters that the headmaster passed on to us from the other parents and the teachers, say, their kids come home from school and they've been blown away, and that's all they want to do now, play guitar. And there was another boy, he was slightly autistic, and he just fully went into it. He wanted to play the guitar and be the next Slash, if you will.
I'll tell you something, Neil. Ian and I talk to a lot of people on this show, and I'm always talking about why rock as we know it, hard rock, metal, this sort of stuff that don't play in Capital Radio, isn't getting a shout, and that there's this glass ceiling. And when we talk about a band like Massive Wagons or Those Damn Crows making it, we talk about making it, but it's making it, but it's still not the way we would like the market to be for our kind of music. And I think you've touched on something, because I remember Nikki, my other half, she's in a primary school. She's a teacher in a primary school in Anfield in Liverpool, and we did something similar. We took one of the guitarists from Midnight Prophecy in there a couple of years ago, last day before summer holidays, and the kid and. In that area, the kids don't come from the best. It's not the best area. There's a lot of where English isn't the first language. And honest to God, they loved it. They absolutely, and it was exactly the same as you. And I think, to be perfectly honest with you, this is one way. You mentioned earlier the bands and why you get into music. Ian could tell you the same thing. With me, it was the first time I heard Roger Daltrey and saw Roger Daltrey sing on the Old Grey Whistle Test or something like that. And I just went, I want to be him. That's all I wanted to be. And then obviously after that was Kiss and all the bands you mentioned as well. But that was it. But these kids aren't seeing it now. So I think it's something that I'd like to do, is with our bands in particular, is get out and do what you did. Because I think that would help us show kids at an early age that there's other opportunities in music. It would also mean that they might just want to play it, and they'd want to go and see bands. So we need to do some. So I think that's, I think that's a cool idea. I think,
That, I mean, that was one idea that we were thinking about. Obviously, with this last year just being crap, we did say, look, when we get some a string of dates together, we would forward advance and see if we get into any of these schools to just try and switch on a couple of kids to rock music.
Yeah, 100%.
We need that as an escapism.
Oh, 100%. I mean, and that's it. And these kids are just not seeing it or hearing it,
No.
And there were actually kids at that school that, they just wanted to. And he just went in by himself, and he showed them, he talked to them about what it was like being in a band and playing Bloodstock and all this kind of stuff and what it was like, and showed them how to play a bit. And there were kids in that year, and he ended up with the whole school there, just like you say. And they were like, and the things the letters they wrote and everything like that, and they were wanting to buy T-shirts and all sorts. It was quite weird. But I kind of like I got my head into that idea that'd be a good idea to do it. And of course, music itself isn't something that they focus a lot in schools just now, but I think it's something they're going to be. So I think there's an opportunity there, definitely.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. Yeah.
So Neil, obviously we touched on how you started playing the guitar and stuff like that. Can you give us a bit of an insight, how on your musical career up to Takeaway Thieves?
Up to Takeaway Thieves. Oh my God, how long have we got? A very quick. Well, so in my teens, I played with a couple of late teens. I played with just a couple of cover bands. I always just wanted to play original music. That was where I just felt that was an outlet, So I did all like probably just every guy does. You do all these cover band routes, and then I went to America when I was 20, and I met a band over there. Well, quite a few bands, and then I got the opportunity to join one of the bands in America. So I lived there for just about a year and a half, and then that was absolutely fantastic. We were halfway through an album, and we Nirvana came out, and so that just collapsed all of that. I mean, that in that era, that was a time when you just needed long hair and an earring, and you got signed up. So then I came back to the UK. I've mentioned before I didn't drink, but in those days I did. And when you're 20 and 21, you think you own the world and you're the king, and like I did. And so I used to drink really pretty good then. So I came back to England with my tail between my legs. I wasn't this big rock star at 5'4" that I thought I was, and I think I just had a couple of years off. I got married. I had a child, a son. Then I set up. Then I got a little just cover band going. This is in my late 20s, and that didn't work out in the end. Then I set up a live network with two other guys. I don't know if you've heard of that company. They're like an entertainment agency now, and the three of us, the founding members of it, we came in with let's try and grow this as a business. And my take on it was always let's do originals and help original artists, singer-songwriters, girls if they're into pop music or rock bands. I work with the you guys are from Liverpool. I worked with they were at that time the resident band of the Cavern, a band called Justice of the Peace, and they'd actually played more gigs. They'd just superseded the Beatles' record of playing at the Cavern more times, and that was the era when that was around the same time Paul McCartney, the prodigal son, returned to play the Cavern, because I always remember they said they went in the day after and they didn't recognize the place because it had been painted and new carpets and Paul McCartney turning up. So yeah, so we did that, and then I kind of left the directorship of that because, again, at that time there was a lot of tribute bands were becoming a big thing, and my two partners, well, certainly one of the partners was more into like the website design and sorting that, and my other partner he was trying to push all these all these tribute bands that were coming out, and of course I signed up at that time, Dressed to Kill, a great Kiss tribute band. So that was the first one I ticked off on my book. But then I thought, well, I don't want to keep. There seemed to be just, in some ways, a bit more pressure to, because we were making more money from that route, and I decided to say no, I don't want to do that. I just want to do what, just help original bands. And so from that, I left, and then I got myself into an original band and did all right. So that's from, like, say, 2001 up to 2009. And again, that was like a real barren wasteland of, the scene wasn't as vibrant then, if you can recall. And there was a lot of venues closing even then. And that's when I kind of went into guitar teching and tour managing, and I did that from 2010 up till 2018 is when I kind of formed Takeaway Thieves.
That's
and then
cool.
it was up to like the COVID was obviously the last time I did
Well, that's what I was going to ask you next, Neil. So, talking about the Takeaway Thieves, because obviously we all kind of know. In fact, I think I played you in the radio show that last week, in my radio show. But talk about the Takeaway Thieves, the forming of it, and what it was like, how things were going for you up until lockdown one, up until that very first lockdown. Can you just cover that just now for us, please?
Well, the premise and why we started the band, primarily myself and Peter, the singer, was because Peter had always been in like the cover band route, and he was in a band back in 2000s to 2010 with me, and I said, look, why don't we just I'd been around primarily I'd been around if for want of a better, like the professional side of the rock music industry. And then I'd started working with Massive Wagons, and there was all this other new side that I hadn't seen, of this grassroots where everyone was helping everyone else out, and I was talking to Peter. I said, let's just get together initially and let's write some stuff and do some acoustic gigs. And we did a couple of them. We got another friend to play bass, and there was a slight momentum where we thought, you could only sit down and play acoustic guitar so long when you want to stand up and shake your ass and rock and roll a bit more. So that's what we got. Again, just friends, and the premise of the band was, look, there is no money in the music industry at all now. Let's just play some good gigs and have a good time. And what we always tried, because it's natural for us anyway, we just want to be in a band that we would like to see and just have a good time. And as long as it's a good time, that we'll keep doing it. So we did our first gig was a surprise gig. Funnily enough,
to you or to the people that were there?
to both. Because it was at the Waterloo in Blackpool, and it was a friend's birthday, and there was loads of bands on the bill, and I'd said to one of the bands, I said, would you mind if my little band got up and did a couple of songs? And they said, yeah, your little band can go on, you can go on first. So and we did, but the response we got was absolutely quite mind blowing. And we're like, just the feedback we got. A friend of mine had turned up and he took some great photographs. And then the day after, what we did was we did an acoustic set in the Waterloo as well, and that was ram packed. That was like at dinner time, and my photographer friend there, Simon Dunkley, who he primarily works with Hard Rock Hell.
Yeah, Simon's house, top bloke.
He took some photos the following day, and what we also did is we recorded the acoustic gig, and so straight off like that, those 2 gigs and those 2 days, we had great photos of us looking like a real band, on a stage. On the Friday night, we had photos from the acoustic set, and we also had a live, what turned out to be a CD that we sold straight off, the first 2 days, if you will, coming out as a band. And then from there we went into the studio. We did like a few dates, and it's just surprising the support we get, and people saying, oh, we don't see people. I think a lot of bands had got to the point where they thought they were too cool, and they were too moody, and we just like to have a good time. And again, going back to probably my education through KISS, I just want, well, collectively, the band, just primarily, we want a good time, and we want everyone who comes to see us to have a good time. And if everyone's leaving with smiling faces, we've done the job. I always see them, they're the bosses, and if we don't do our job right, they'll kind of sack us, because they won't come to see us anymore.
Makes sense.
That's our philosophy. We always.
I think, to be honest with you, mate, it's one thing I say to the bands that I work with, especially when they come new to or the younger end. I just say, just remember, you're there to entertain. It is entertainment. If you're not entertaining them, they will vote with their feet, and they won't come again. And it's as simple as that. Now, you can to entertain, can be in many different ways. But I think you're right. If the music that you play suits that kind of, like Massive Wagons, every gig's a party. It literally is, and it's kind of along like that. And that wouldn't work for every band. If it works for your band, that's great. But irrespective of the type of music you are, you're still there to entertain.
Yes, yeah, of course, yeah.
So tell us a little bit what's happened over lockdown then. What have you guys been up to?
What we did, we were, again, we kind of foresaw that there was going to be a proper lockdown. And this is when the pubs were first shut. So we actually started recording our debut album last January, and we had scheduled in a video shoot for the first single in that March. And of course, we cancelled that. And over the last couple of years, we actually rehearsed at the Waterloo, and Ian at the Waterloo. I've been up and down the UK, and just about every single venue. And the Waterloo is it just won an award last week for the best venue. It really is a fantastic venue for the bands who come. They are so well looked after, treated like royalty, and for even the people who come to see those bands, everyone is welcome. There's such a great atmosphere, and such a collective bond of like everyone's part of the family. And we're really privileged that we primarily through locality is Ian lets us rehearse there, and to the point where quite a few people say, well, you're the house band of the Waterloo. Yeah, I would rather be the house band of the Waterloo than I don't know, the Frog and Bucket, whatever, or venues elsewhere, So so what we decided to do as a kind of what we thought, let's see if we can do a gig at the Waterloo and see if we can raise some money for Ian and the staff. We don't know how long this debacle is going to go on for. So we were actually one of the first bands to do a live stream on Facebook, and a friend of ours was writing down how many people were watching and holding it up. Well, in the end, there was like 15,000 people watching live the gig, because it was such a new novelty thing. You know, I'm fully aware of that. It wasn't, you know, there's no other reason. People were stuck at home. The pubs were shut, so there's only the bar staff there. And we had, as I say, 15,000 people watch it live. And we raised on that night just over £2,000 for the Waterloo. And then over the next couple of days, it went up to like over £3,000. So that was on the Thursday. Now on the Friday was when the national lockdown came. So not only were we one of the first to play a live Facebook stream, we were one of the last to play actually in a venue in the UK. And so, well, again, we're going back to, like, say, Kiss and how much we are as a band fans of, you know, just various music. We got in touch with and partnered up with a recording studio in New York called Least of All Studios, and what they were doing was they were doing one-off 7-inch single master vinyls, and we did a lot of we did for new wave classical rock, breaking bands. I think we did a Blackpool Live thing. We did a lot of online gigs, like a lot of bands did. But then that took us to the idea, well, let's try and let's see if anyone wants to buy a vinyl 7-inch copy of one of our songs. So we put 4 songs on as a choice, and so we recorded this live, and Peter mentioned whoever had bought that song actually on the recording. So I've got my copy on the wall there, so we just thought this is such a unique gift, and as music lovers ourselves, you know, we all bought one. What a great idea, you know, to have a 7-inch single. Again, there's no other bands doing this. We thought, why, you know, this is such a great idea.
Wait a minute, Neil. So just so maybe I'm not following this. So basically, you were recording a track for one person and selling it to them.
Yes.
Ah, right. That's what I thought you meant.
Yeah,
but it was dedicated to them on the record, and it's a 7-inch vinyl they got.
Wow!
And it's
Yeah,
it's cool. It's the one-off master, if you will, test pressing of that song that they wanted dedicated to them. And now myself and Peter, we'd written a song called "Find My Way Home," which is quite like just on the 12th string really. And I didn't make the mistake, because I was giddy about this new kind of song. I put that in as one of the options.
You hadn't read it
for people to buy. And then before I knew it, people were ordering that one. So I was messaging them saying, "Whoa, wait a minute! You've not heard this song? It's brand new." Not the fact that we hadn't even finished, formatting it as a song, if you will. So that kind of led from that led to us thinking, right, we're going to have to maybe record this and learn it. So we did that, and we thought, well, let's take it one step further. And there's some shipwrecks just on the estuary in Fleetwood here, and Peter said, we should film something there, because no bands have ever done that, again, and let's be one of the first ones to do that. And so with this song "Find My Way Home," we said, let's film it on these shipwrecks, and that was just pushed on through the necessity of people buying this song that we hadn't even finished. So we released that, and then that was in the summertime. And again, wanting to give people that bit more, we then recorded those 4 songs onto a CD. So whoever got the vinyl, a lot of people now just like to put the vinyl on the wall. We gave them all a CD, of that compilation of those four tracks, and then we sold the rest as like a strictly limited edition, for whoever never bought the vinyl, if you will. And then latterly we've just been recording our own debut album. We started in October last year, working with the producer Dave Draper, who's done primarily the Wild Hearts, TerraVision, and through my work with the Wild Hearts, I got to know Dave, and he was very gracious and kind to say, well, come down to Worcestershire and I'll record your album, give it the best I can. And he really did. We went down first, did the drums, and because obviously this is when you're supposed to be self-isolated, and everyone's supposed to keep away from everyone else. And we did that up till the January of this year. So that's where we're at.
That's pretty cool, man.
I think, yeah. And collectively over the year, we raised about £6,000 for various charities collectively as a band.
So you've been quite busy then.
Yeah.
That's good. That's good.
I think you have to be, don't you? I think.
Well, yeah, like away time, 6 away.
Yeah, certainly, yeah. We could be gone in a second, couldn't we? Any of us.
Oh, I mean, one of the things I picked up on a podcast that you did, and hence the reason I reached out to you, Neil, and it was primarily about some of the things that you were talking about. And so some of what you've just said there, I've actually heard before, obviously.
It's all live.
And and one of the things we wanted to talk to you about was how you obviously think a bit differently, and you've obviously done things quite differently during lockdown. So let's talk about the album now and the financial side of it. So I know you were talking about things like cryptocurrency and blockchain and non-fungible tokens, etc. Now, to me, I haven't a Scooby what any of them are. And I guarantee you 99.99% of people watching this won't either. And if the other 0.001 do, they're lying. So can you talk about that? Not in a boring, sort of geeky way, but about how you think it's going to work and how you're going to work it from a band perspective, mate.
Yeah, it's absolutely when I've not educated, when I've told the guys about these NFTs and the band, they're like, "Oh my God, this is unbelievable!" It certainly is the future for bands. And like when we first started, one of the first things I said was, well, one, will have a great time. Secondly, there is no money in this. This is such a game changer and a savior for music and for artists, songwriters, musicians. So it's all based around, I got into through desperation last year and not being able to work. I only worked 2 days last year. I thought, what am I going to do? With, there's no jobs, nothing there. The whole world's closed. I took my last £300 of self-furlough money for my self-employment, and I kept that from Heidi. And I thought, if I could just, I'm going to have to learn crypto here. And if I could just get that to £1,000, then I'll tell her, I'm doing something good. And it was a shaky first couple of months where eventually I did. And so from that, last December, I came across this NFTs. So basically, it's all based around like what's, again, this is the new technology that's coming, and it's coming so rapidly and very quickly that it's just grown exponentially. Because I paint as well, so initially it broke the art world in February, and I'm thinking, how does no one know this? How's no one else coming out with this idea? So I felt we wanted to be one of the first to at least publicly come out and say, hey, we're doing these NFTs. So right, so in this future technology, which is called blockchain technology, if you say, John, you've got your house and you want to sell your house. Now, in the blockchain technology, there's there's like, if you will, a digital block created that states that you own your house, you bought your house in whatever year and for that much money, and you are now wanting to sell that. So there's provenance in your block, and I come along and I want to buy that. So that creates another block, and it's joined together with an imaginary chain. So this is all smart, part of what's called the smart contracts of the digital world. So these are bulletproof and impenetrable. No one can change any of that information. So then in this blockchain where I bought the house off you, it states that I own the house now, you did own it, and I paid you this much for it. Now also, I paid you directly for that, and you got that money straight away through this blockchain and smart technology. So with regard to NFTs, a fungible token is basically if you've got a pound coin and I've got a pound coin and we swap that pound coin, it's going to look pretty much the same. It's there's fungible tokens, everything looks the same. So a non-fungible token is something that looks totally different. So say if you drew a picture of Ian and I drew a picture of Ian, they would probably not look the same. So they would be
my drawings, mate. They would definitely not look the same.
they would be so that's a non-fungible token. So a non-fungible token is primarily a one-off, again, digital asset. So how that works in the music industry is, and what we are going to do, Takeaway Thieves, is we are now, with the release of this album, we are creating, each song is going to be an NFT. So primarily, we are inviting people who want to support the band and who believe in the band. We're giving them the opportunity to buy 10% of ownership of whatever song they choose. And we're doing 3 blocks of that. So there'll be 30% for 3 people. And then the 4th block of 10% is going to be split between 10 people, so that each person could have 1% of the song. So there's varying price angles there. So you follow me so far?
Yeah. No, yeah.
So yeah, so primarily, again, through the blockchain, it dictates that like we own a song, and say once again you want to buy that song, you're going to buy 10% of that song straight away. You will send us the money. We will get that money straight away, and you will own through the blockchain on your block. It will say undisputed that you own 10% of said song. Now, also what we can put in place in the smart contract is like a commission base. So we can put 10% commission on. So say you, John, sold the song, you've had enough of it. You sold the song on to Ian. That would be the 3rd part of the blockchain, yet we would get 10% commission from that sale that you did with John, with Ian.
So you as the band would get the 10% commission of me selling it on. So literally, you're talking really, in sort of layman's terms, you're talking about sort of cryptocurrency. You're talking about an online thing, which you're talking about as it's literally shares.
Exactly, yeah.
I mean, so if you record the song and you put it out there, you're selling 100 shares at £1 each. Then if I buy £5 worth, I've got 5 shares.
Yes,
20% of the shares. And then if I decide to sell them shares on, but the only difference is it's all cryptocurrency and it's all this blockchain, so it's better protected.
Yes, it's better protected, and it's also because a lot of people say, well, it's just like a digital thing; it doesn't really exist. Well, when you primarily a lot of our business we conduct is online now anyway. We buy stuff off eBay. We maybe do bank transfers, so we've never seen any of this money anyway. So that's a big fallacy with regard to the cryptocurrency, and with regard, say, artwork. Again, you could do a drawing of Ian, and you could sell that. Now you could sell maybe just one copy of that, or you could sell 10 copies of it. And what you have to do is you'd upload it to like one of these NFT websites, which is just basically like an eBay. And you would therefore say, okay, there's only one copy of this, or there's 10 copies, and you can set that to an auction, or you can set that to a buy it now figure that you're happy with, and that person will own that one digital, picture drawing that you did. And so people who are slightly uneducated in this world go, well, I could easily just take a screenshot of that on Instagram and there's my copy. But it's through the blockchain, you have no ownership control over that. It's like we could all print a copy of the Mona Lisa and put it on our wall, but we don't have the original one-off.
So for example, for you guys, right? So let's say you've got one song in the album and you're going to sell this. How much money are you looking to get, or how much? What's the cost of it to somebody that wants to buy an NFT in it?
Yeah.
Well, this is the biggest quandary, really, where you've got to put value. I think certainly, we've got to work out still really because this is such a new thing. One of the first bands to do it was Kings of Leon, and they're a big band, and they already have that great widespread audience who can just throw money and get involved into that. So there is, what do you value a song at? What do you value a song that you've not heard before? And particularly for a band who are like, not greatly known. So these are issues, and the fact that there's no other band have done this yet. So I certainly feel under quite a bit of pressure to
value it right, haven't you?
To set a template. There's no templates I can follow to set a template for other future bands to use, or maybe change and learn from, say, possible mistakes that we're going to make.
So if you've got so let's say, irrespective of whatever you decide to price it at, so if you say to your fans, right, there's 100 shares in this and they're £1 a share or an NFT, okay, and these people just want to own a part of your song for whatever reason, the fans, right? It's like buying a T-shirt and wearing it, kind of style.
Yeah.
So they end up buying it. So you end up with the money that you want, or you end up with the amount you want for that song. Does that money, is it real money? Does it come to you and you can then reinvest it on like recording or doing whatever you want to do with it?
Yes, exactly. We certainly, we don't take any money out of the band, and everything that we've been able to do, and every recording, everywhere we've gigged, all the money just goes straight back into the band. And again, the way this blockchain and these smart contracts are moving in the future, what's going to happen, certainly with regards to streaming services like Spotify, we know bands get not third of a pence, but what the listener doesn't realize is they're getting screwed over as well, because they're paying maybe £10 a month, and my mathematical head, I think I'm quite right in saying, to get that £10 worth, you have to listen to 94 hours of music a month. Yeah. And predominantly most listeners are not listening to that much. So they're losing money as well as the bands. So what will definitely happen in the future, and certainly one thing I looked into at the start of the year, but the technology is far beyond anything I can work out how to do, and is still so new. It's not quite here yet, but certainly in the future, maybe by next year, what's going to happen is there'll be a new streaming site that obliterates Spotify. And for the people who say, oh well, how are they going to do that? There's Spotify is this great big mammoth of a service. Well, the same thing happened with MySpace back in the day. Facebook came. It's always evolving. So again, Spotify is going to be taken out by a streaming service that's run on the blockchain through smart contracts where the listener now just maybe pays 1 penny to listen to a band song, and that listener knows straight away that that penny has gone straight to that band. They've not to wait 3 or 6 months for this streaming, which we do now, to get those royalties. So the listener knows they're getting, the bands to get that money straight directly to them that second they've listened to it. And also the listener is keeping track of how much money they're spending. And there's no way they're going to spend £10 a month.
So let's say, like back in the day when you used to make records, and if you you made a record and you owned it, and the record company owned the biggest majority of it and everything else. So, and then you had that, you trundled along, then all of a sudden you had that one song that just went ballistic. So you had Extreme with More Than Words, and it just went boom, and they made a load of money. How will that affect with the NFTs? Will the value of that go up as well because of the success?
Well, of course. Say if you owned that Extreme More Than Words, then the value of your 10% or whatever percentage you have of that song, that's going to increase because you are entitled to the royalties from that song when you own part of it.
So basically, you're selling the band are selling the royalties.
The bands are, well, the bands is there's only us so far. There's us and Kings of Leon who are doing it. In the EDM world, because they're more in cahoots, if you will, with electronic music, and they're more involved in the crypto world, and there have been quite a few of those artists have crossed over and done all these NFTs. Now the options are, unbelievable. A band could give away 100% of the songs and own none of it. But primarily, if you're buying an NFT and you're buying a percent of that song, you get that percent of royalties. So that song would increase in value if it became greater. And it also gives that person the chance to go, hey, look, I'm going to try and see if I can get more money from this by sending it here or there, because they own that percent.
That's actually a good angle, isn't it? Because if I'm sitting there and I've got a part of your song and I'm going to be sending it to everybody saying, listen to this, and that's a great song, and sending it and playing it in the record, playing it and all that sort of thing, and saying, and hoping it becomes, or trying to get it on TikTok in the background, there's some new dance move or something, and all of a sudden it goes boom, and all of a sudden what you've spent £1 on suddenly is worth £100.
And crudely as well, people like that kind of that bragging rights of going, hey, I own that song, and so for
quick question, Neil. I've got to ask this, mate. I've got to ask this. So obviously you're on about the single side of things. What happens when, you release the album, and do they get a cut of the album or the song, just a percentage of the song? And how do you work that out? So say that you sell the album for a tenner, there's 12 songs on that. How do you work it out?
Well, our album is imaginatively called 9. We have 9 songs on it. It took us 9 days to record, and primarily it was because we were coming up with. I said we need a song with 3 words as a title, because you have Back in Black, A Highway to Hell. There's I can't even think of any more, but all these great albums only have 3 words as the title, and so from that we came up with a 9. And why we have 9 on the album is because nowadays you can only sell a CD maybe for 10 quid. So why would we put 12 or 13 songs on when it's again devaluing those songs? So with again, if say on the album front, that person still owns that
10% of that one song.
So you're selling shares in all 9 songs. So the album is just a collection of 9 songs, and in those 9 songs, there's a lot of people own parts of those songs. So nobody owns a part of the album per se; they own a part of the song on the album.
Yes. But I mean, again, one of the beautiful things again in the NFTs is what we're going to do is we're going to do a preview of the 9 songs as an NFT. So one person can own a preview of, maybe 30 seconds of each song. And that's just going to be a one-off, and no one else will be able to hear that, obviously, unless they play it to the friends or whatever till the actual album comes out. Again, that gives them the bragging rights. So going back to what you said, like say with Extreme, say you have this one song that explodes and you own 1% of that song. Well, again, you sell that song on, and you will increase your profit if you decide to do that. Now, it also works the way of we're older collectively as a band, and again, when we started, like I said earlier, there's no money in it. We just want to have a good time. But now with this NFTs, the potential for bands who do this have a great bartering device to go to publishers and to go to record companies. So, like you say, the majority of bands who get signed, primarily the label will go, well, you've got 1 or 2 decent songs, so we'll take you up maybe for a 1 album or a 3 album deal, and it's going to cost them this amount of much money for that campaign. Now, what we're doing with NFTs are, we can say to record labels, well, what song would you like? Just take one. Just take 1% of one song. So their costs are down, but again, they can work out, okay, well, I can increase my percentages of what I bought this song for tenfold, 100-fold by being able to put that song in the right place. So they're under no pressure to sign you up for a 3-album deal or 1 album deal if they only like the one song. If they don't like the one song, let them just dive in and buy the NFT of that one song.
Yeah, it's interesting because we all know that something drastic needs to happen, because nobody's making money out of music, other certainly not in rock, really. And so that's why I was particularly interested in speaking to you about this. It's certainly made my head turn over in quite a bit. So I think the fact that you're doing it so early is brave. I can't see that you can lose out it, because let's face it, nobody's making any frigging money as it is anyway on them. Well, so you're literally asking fans just now to support you, and I don't see anything wrong. And at this early stage, by buying parts of the song, and I think that's cool, because I think I'd have loved to have done that when I was younger and went to. I'd have bought Kiss, I'd have been buying the Who, but you know what I mean. I own a part of that. I think it's brilliant. I think it's really clever. Yeah.
It is, and it's got to be the future, because it retains, for artists, songwriters, it retains their copyright, and it's like, say, if Leonardo da Vinci, if NFTs were going 400 years ago, Leonardo da Vinci's family would now be or his ancestors would be sat on millions, not some private collector who has that artwork. And so it just retains the copyright, and it gives bands such a great barter to go to record labels, and it makes it, in a way, it works for the record companies as well, because they don't have to hardly have that money or that revenue to splash out on new bands. And like back in the day, obviously your first 2 albums could go and maybe sell 10 copies, but they gave you time to grow as an artist. Whereas nowadays it's like, well, we need that return as quick as we can,
on a song basis as well, because
it gives those record companies and these publishers option just to go, okay, yeah, well, we'll just take that one song for that much, and we'll turn our money into that. It's got to be the future, because there's no other way. And the hardest thing in doing all this is, like you say, the majority of people don't know, and go like that's just a fad, but it's not going away. The amount of people who are buying digital wallets and are buying NFTs in the art world, and now slowly in the music world, it's absolutely exploding.
I'll go into everything, because we'll get into the literary world as well for writers and
That
people
makes
who write
sense.
books. It's bound to.
Of
So-
course.
Anything that's created, anything that's an artwork or anything that's created has to go down this route, I think.
There are a lot of say you've got maybe your Instagram, your influencers, and your say I think Paris Hilton, she would draw like a crude cat, and she what they call mint it as an NFT, and therefore straight away she's got those millions of fans who just want to buy that one thing. A good friend of mine, he's a promoter in Venice, and a few years ago he took Ginger Wildheart over, and they went around this Casanova's, where Casanova was imprisoned, and it's just like a derelict island just now, and there was a tramp there with a guitar, and Ginger got top of him and borrowed his guitar, and he played a Kiss song on this guitar, and Alvese, my friend, he recorded him. Now Alvese has that one video copy of Ginger playing a Kiss song on an acoustic guitar, on an island off Venice. So he'll never give that or part with that. But what he could do, he could turn that into an NFT, because it's a one-off unique thing. The other thing that
I question that, and the reason why I question that, Neil, and the only reason why I say that, because I know what Gene Simmons is like. If he's seen that someone was doing a Kiss cover and was making money off it, there's no way he'd be happy about that. We'd have to be very careful with that stuff.
Well, again, it's that interpretation.
No, you know what I mean, though, don't you? You have to, especially, you know what it's like with YouTube. You put some music on YouTube, and next minute you get a copyright ban. So you've got to be careful with what you.
Oh no! I was using that just as an example.
Oh no,
a one-off thing. Obviously, everyone's just got to put their own creative, whatever it may be.
No, that's. I think you've just got to be careful, like, you know what I mean, because obviously with copyright, music is one of the hottest points on things, and I think I'll be intrigued to see how they police it as well, because obviously there is. I don't know if you know anything, like, obviously about the copyright side of things like that. We've got to be dead careful on what's getting sold and what's not. Like, you know what I mean.
I think in a situation,
you know what I mean, don't you, John?
Yeah, I think with what Neil's talking about there, let's say that the guy in Venice said to Ginger about it and says, "Why don't we put this up? We'll put it in the blockchain, create an NFT about it, and we'll split it." I think there'd have to be an element of that. But I think what it is it's that moment in time, isn't it? It's that moment in time that's captured.
Yeah.
It's different. And then if everybody agrees, you could, and then you can sell it. I think the whole thing is something that somebody, it is that miniature painting that great artists used to do and sell them and all that kind of stuff. So it's kind of just I think I just took it as a kind of example of a moment in time, one-off moment in time. You could now, if everybody agreed, make some money out of it. Whereas before you couldn't.
I do like the idea. I really do like the idea on it.
Part of the smart contract is like you're stating that this is our own original artwork, and in the blockchain. So that
Question for you, Neil.
I'm using that as like a scenario, like say, say if you were around here and we were all singing and playing, say, a Takeaway Thieves song, and one of us videoed it, we said, "Oh, we could do that as an NFT."
And as long as everybody that's performed in it has something.
How'd you get a certificate for it then, Neil? Like, because obviously you can. Is it just all online? We get your certificate to say that you own
it all becomes like a smart contract. So it's all what they call minted as a digital asset through the blockchain technology. So
right, okay.
I mean, this gives us. I mean, again, because we're just creating a template for this, and again, because we just feel compelled to say, hey, why don't we give them this and this and this?
Yeah.
because we thought, well, let's do like some limited edition vinyl to go with that, and T-shirt and this and that, and then like Heidi, our management was saying, Rock People Management was like, no, you're then devaluing the initial NFT.
Yeah.
So again, we're still wondering, as much as I would love, as a music fan and lover myself, I'd love a package of like, I'll own 10%, but I'll have, a vinyl and a CD and a limited edition T-shirt or whatever. You've got to try, and again, it's whatever you feel the value is and what you're happy with selling.
I think the way I would look at that would be in the way that the original artist creates a masterpiece, and somebody has to pay a decent amount of money for that, because that's where the real value is. But then you can also sell prints of it. So instead of buying the kind of the sort of Van Gogh for fucking 100 million, but you can buy a copy of it for 40 quid. But everybody knows it's a copy. You know it's a copy. So I think that's the way it would end up being. Like, you could buy the CD, but you don't own the song. You know what I mean? Yeah. So I think that's a sort of analogy I would perhaps draw, rightly or wrongly, but that's how my head's turning it.
I mean, I've even said to fan, but I think it's just too early at this moment in time. But how I see this going is, it'll end up being, it's like you said before, like, oh, you'd love Kiss to do that, or whatever band. Fans, when they, a lot of fans now are encouraged to buy like 15 different versions of the CD or 15 different colored vinyl, and then they're sat there with like, say, 10 or 12 different versions of the same album, and that is a way that they have helped the band. Doing it through an NFT, we feel it's a lot better because they're actually having ownership of a song. But how I feel that's going to go in the future is, the only way is to minimize how many physical copies of a vinyl or a CD are sold. Therefore, you're creating a further value on that.
You're making it limited then, aren't you?
So instead of like I obviously these bigger bands, they maybe like say Kiss or something, they'll do maybe a 10,000 or 50,000 limited edition. I'm a huge Prince fan, and since his death, they're bringing out all these limited edition albums. I don't know how many there are of them being made, but there's going to be lots of them made. But everyone wants that limited edition album. So eventually, it's going to come to where why are bands putting all their money into, and record companies putting all their money into 15 different colored vinyl, a splatter version, and 2 or 3 different CD covers differently? Why don't they just go, look, there's only maybe 100 or 200 physical copies of this record available in the world? So that straight away exponentially increases the value of that. And the only way so you can own the NFTs and collect your royalties from whatever song you choose to buy.
Yeah.
But then also that increases how many streams, because the only other way a listener is going to listen to it is through the streaming services. So the streaming will go up, and therefore the bands will get more revenue from that. But I think that's still too early. You can't, it's like you can say to him, your band's, from a management point of view, okay, we're only selling like 100 copies of your album. What are you on about? We want to sell as many as we can.
Yeah.
I do feel that is a future thing.
I think so, and I think it needs to be, and I think I'm glad you've talked about it, and I'm glad we've talked about it, because I hadn't really heard of it until you mentioned it, and it piqued my interest. And we know it's early days, and we know it's liable to change, but I do think it's exciting, because I think anything at all that can put the control back in the hands of the creators and it's also the creation is shared by true fans specifically, rather than just investors. I think it has to be applauded, mate. It really does.
Like I say, I really like the idea. I think I've just got to look into it and understand it a little bit more. And I think it's like most of these things, it's new, it's a great idea. Let's see what happens. But I think I'll most probably be jumping on the bandwagon myself. I like it, Neil. I think it's a great idea.
And now that we've blagged everybody's bloody head, can we get back to talking about some bands, please?
So let's get back to Takeaway Thieves, mate. What's the short and medium term plans for their Takeaway Thieves? What are we looking for this year?
Well, we have we have some NFTs coming up.
NFT stands for no fucking tea because he's talking all night.
Just want to highlight that it wasn't the Scouser who was actually swearing first.
Yeah, yes, I will. We've got the single coming out on the 2nd of July. It comes out 2nd of July. We're doing the pre-save actually after this call. That'll be live, the pre-save, if you will, for the single. We shot the video just last week. We only got the masters back the week this week for the album, and so we'll start the pre-sale for the NFTs with the release of the audio single. The video will be coming out on the 6th of July, and then we've actually got a gig tomorrow, an acoustic gig supporting Jim Fitzpatrick from FM.
Okay.
And so we've got that tomorrow, but then our first, if you will, electric gig is Call of the Wild Festival, which is the week after the release of the single and video. And then we've got the album coming out in September the 17th. That will be out. And then we've just got like some other festivals lined up that I've kind of just rolled on from last year. Just more gigs. I think we might have another video out before the album comes out as well. So longer term than that, I don't know. Our premise is, as long as we're having a good time and
enjoying themselves,
that we're happy, everything's cool. And when I brought up the NFTs to the guys in the band, because obviously they didn't have a clue, I had to try and sell it to them. They were like, well, what have we? It's like you said, John, and what have we got to lose? We've got nothing to lose, apart from we don't sell any.
Yeah, that's the only thing. All right, so I think the last thing I'd like to ask you is, so in the far and distant future, and you're sitting there, Neil, and you're finally giving up the ghost when it comes to getting up and playing the guitar or performing, or you might not be.
5 years.
Yeah, right. Okay, in 5 years' time, you're looking back. What would success look like to you, Neil? What would you class as a success for you?
For myself, I'm one of the only people I know, and people can say this, but I don't think, certainly a lot of people I know aren't this. I have done exactly what I wanted with my life. And that sounds a bit selfish, and maybe there have been times I have been selfish. So for me, the success wasn't being 20 years old and living on a beach house in Daytona Beach, thinking I was the king, with a record deal. It wasn't, with a live network or anything. It's the fact that I've done exactly what I wanted with my life. That's been my success.
And do you know what, mate? You're right. Not many people can say that.
No, some people can say that, but they can't. It's not true, is it? I mean, every time it seems every time, like this last year, Well, there's another case where I thought I'm going to have to go mainstream and try and find a proper 9-to-5 job. And I've not had that since I was like 15, up till the age of 19. I've not had that. But there have been times in my life I thought I'm going to have to give up and go mainstream and find a 9-to-5 job. And somehow it's like the universe conspires to say, no, you ain't doing that. You know, keep doing just what you want to do. And it always seems to work out. So again, the advice for anyone listening, if they care for it, is to just, you know, if you're not hurting anyone, just do what you want to do, because life is over in, you know, a second at any time for any of us, and you've just got to be happy doing what you want to do with your life. So that's I think success. It's not wealth. You can't take wealth with you or anything. I've traveled around the world, and you know, if I looked at, you know, say my income in my life, I think, well, I've done all of this on so little of that, you know. You've just got to do what you want to do, and if you believe in yourself, maybe other people will. You know, or if you dig what you're doing, other people might dig it, and then you can all grow.
No, I think that sums it up very nicely. That, to be honest, Neil, I think you've hit the nail on the head there, and I think a lot of people will be a bit envious of that as well, because obviously, I hope that people look at you and go, "I want to do what Neil's doing," and that's the important thing. But being the Scouser, I always have another question. I'm a cheeky guy, so can you give me all your links to you? How do we get in touch with you? How do we buy shares in your songs? How do we get in touch with you, Neil? Go on, give us all your links. Go on, fire them out.
Well, basically, all the social media links just end in Takeaway Thieves. That's it. Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Spotify. Yeah,
the webpage.
Sorry?
What's your webpage, Neil? Have you got a webpage?
The website is just takeawaythieves.com.
What I'll do, I'll put them all down below. So guys, get on the links below, give them a click, find out what Neil's up to, find out what the Takeaway Thieves are up to as well.
As long as you're not the tax man.
Go on, what was that, mate?
I don't want to know if they're the tax man.
Don't click the links. Don't click the links.
The name's Steve.
So if you see Steve in the venues, no, seriously, check out the Takeaway Thieves. They're a great bunch of guys, absolutely amazing songs. And all I can say is watch out, because I think these NFTs are going to be around very soon for everyone, and I'm going to be looking into them. I'm sure John will be looking into them on our behalf as well. So, hey, John, only one thing left to do, mate. Over to you. I'll catch up with you in a minute.
All right, ladies and gentlemen. Well, I think tonight we've covered a lot of subjects that we haven't ever spoken about before, and it certainly piqued my interest. I hope it worked for you as well. So thanks a lot, Neil, for coming on and talking about NFTs and blockchain and everything else that we didn't have a Scooby about until you came on. So until next time, you know what to do. Hit that cowbell and subscribe.